Good afternoon, everybody. Car Biker here. Just heading through my town of birth, Norton in Derwent. I usually tell people if they ask, I don't just go announcing it, but if people ask where I'm from, I usually say York, because people know York, and most people have never heard of Norton or think it's a different Norton. Anyway, I'm out of Norton now, so I'll shut up about that one, and instead I'd like to talk about helmets. I did a video a while back about helmets and the sharp testing and how that compares helmets and their safety. All about safety in the end. And I was reading another report, or rather I was reading about another report called the Hurt Report. I don't know if you've come across it. It's an American one about helmet efficiency or efficacy, how well helmets perform and how people get hurt in accidents. And there's a similar report called the MAIDS report, M-A-I-D-S. It's a European one, again about accident rates and people getting killed and that kind of thing. Now in the European one, most European places, you've got to wear a helmet. I think it's actually the case now that most of America you have to wear a helmet, or certainly in most places in America favour wearing a helmet, even though there are places now where people don't want to and where you don't have to. I think it's one of those things. I've grown up with seat belts in cars, and I think it's one of those things that even if I didn't have to wear a helmet, I probably still would. And if I didn't want to, or if I didn't have to wear a seatbelt in a car, I probably still would, because it doesn't feel right not having it. But it was quite interesting reading about it, and particularly for these reports about where the injuries occur and where the impacts occur when you come off a bike and hit the ground or hit another vehicle. Icon, the gear makers, have created a helmet called the Airframe Statistic, which is a fascinating helmet. So on this helmet there's a grid design, and in each section of the grid there's a percentage kind of printed on, and it's the percentage of impacts to helmets that happen in that area, and it's fascinating to look at. The two areas that receive the fewest impacts are the top of the head, which kind of makes sense really. You'd have to go over your bars or something to land right on the top of your head, wouldn't you? Which I think was 0.4% of impacts happen there. So for those of you who wear your camera on top of your head, perfect. The next position that was really low was the sides, just behind the visor, which is where people who don't wear the cameras on top of their heads tend to have the cameras positioned. And it was 0.2% of impacts on one side and 0.6 on the other, and I forget which way around it was. It swapped for the side of the head for the country where the report was done, I think, because I guess it depends which side of the road you ride on for which side you're most likely to come off on. But either way, it's a very, very low amount of impacts, you know, less than 1%. So somewhere around 1 in 500 for one side and probably 1 in 200-ish for the other. So good places to have cameras. Now, I'm not going to talk about cameras on helmets today because I want to do a video about that separately. However, the bit that I found really interesting was where the majority of the impacts were, because that's kind of what matters, isn't it? And it was the jaw. Now, this really kind of is interesting. And I guess it's because when you hit something, you're going to then face plant it generally afterwards. And when you come off and slide down your road, if you slide on your front, you're probably going to be sliding, trying to remove your jaw. And it's well over a third. In fact, it's over 40% when you take into account the visor area as well. It's well over 40%. Almost half of collisions are that area, the jaw and the face. Is that a bug? I think there's a bug up there. And that got me thinking about helmets in general, these open face helmets. Now I know that some people say open face helmets are better. A lot of it I think is fashion, but I understand that if you're in a very hot country, you may well want to wear an open face helmet to keep your face cooler. Although most helmets have got admittedly fairly useless vents on them, but you can always notch your visor open a bit like I have now. But when you think that almost half of impacts to helmets are in that area of the open face, is it really safe to wear an open face helmet? Certainly would make me think twice, although to be fair, I've never had the inkling to wear an open face helmet. I always have that fear that, well not fear, but that concern I'll say. The number of times I've been hit in the face by a bee or a stone kicked up by another car, or just a bit of something in the air that's flown off another car or flown in from the side of the road or something like that. I've had things hit my visor very often and hit the lower part of my helmet, kind of the jaw area, very, very often indeed. And the impact, even at 40 or 50 miles an hour, is pretty serious. It's the noise it makes when it pings off. It's not the noise of a kind of a light tap, it's a big impact. Not enough to break your jaw, which, bit of trivia for you, the strongest bone in your body is your jaw. So it's not going to break that, but it's going to blooming hurt. And if it was to pop you in the eye, even if it didn't blind you, it's certainly going to put you off your riding, isn't it? For the next few seconds at least. So I'm not really one for the open face helmet. But if you are an open face helmet rider, does that kind of thing make you think twice? I suppose ultimately it's a personal choice what type of helmet you wear. I'm not going to say that you shouldn't wear one type or another. If it's all about safety for you, then clearly full face has got to be safer. But if there are other factors in there for you, then why not wear an open face one if you're willing to take that chance? And if you don't want to wear a helmet at all and you're in a place where you're allowed to not, then again, that's your personal choice. Here's a little bug. The other side of the coin, of course, is that sometimes a helmet gives you too much of a sense of safety. I'm doing a reasonable speed down here. If I was to fall off and hit something with my head, full face or open face isn't going to make much difference, I don't think. Too many people think that just because they're wearing a helmet and all the gear, that somehow they're safer. Going back to an earlier video I did, maybe that's similar to the idea of seat belts and driver's aids actually make you drive faster. Maybe because you're wearing full gear, you think you're safer and therefore you take more risks. Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, we'll find out who watched to the end by all the people who start slagging me off about slagging off open face helmets. I'm not doing that in the least. Food for thought. Anyway, thanks for watching everyone. Ride safe, helmeted or otherwise. And I'll talk to you all again soon.